Hi, I'm going to be presenting my organizational behavior case analysis on decision making. My name is Valandra, and I chose this case because I think that it applies a whole lot to me, and it was the best topic to talk on, being that I'm a business owner and also I see myself as a leader. So this presentation consists of the case background, case discussion, case responses, and then conclusion. Case background. So the case talks about a man by the name of Harry, who is an executive member of the Brand Corporation. Currently, he was picked or favored by the president of the board, and he was charged with basically managing the new plant site that the company is interested in opening, and then he would also be responsible for picking or choosing a good location. Harry then meets with the rest of the team, which is a team of experts, marketing experts, public relations experts, operations experts, and they all come up together, with the top three plant sites. They were given 1 month to figure that out, and then they regrouped and they list them in the order of preference: Kansas City, Los Angeles, and New York, with New York being the least best place to open a new plant site. And he goes home. After that, the group of experts told him that, hey, Kansas City is the best city to choose from. And then they decide, and then he goes home and speaks to his wife about it, telling her, hey, honey, how do you feel about moving over to Kansas City? And she responds is, oh, hell no, no, I'm not going to come. I'm not going to go over there. And if you decide to go over to Kansas City, you might as well, decide to go over for it by yourself. So he's like, oh no, what am I gonna do? They've already decided that this was a top site. She says, well, tell them that you're gonna be doing New York instead, where it'll be easier and they could commute. He agrees, and then he goes back the next day thanking everybody for their time, and that the final decision was made on New York. Case discussion. Did Harry make a rational decision? What model of behavioral decision making does this case support, and what decision techniques that were discussed in the chapter could be used by the committee to select a new plant site? Question 1. Did Harry make a rational decision? Rational decision making is a process of making choices and concluding a decision based on the alternatives present in a particular decision making situation. Harry has certainly not made a rational decision, since the mechanisms of rational decision making is based on logic, objectivity, and analysis. Harry's decision was solely based on the fulfillment of personal objectives rather than that of the company. He basically went along with the fulfilling the personal objectives of his wife, who didn't want to move to Kansas City. Rational decision making approach includes problem definition, identification of criteria on which decisions should be based, development of alternatives, evaluation of alternatives, and selection of the best alternative. Question 2. What model of behavioral decision making does this case support? So this case supports bounded rational decision making model, wherein Harry is bounded to decide New York over Kansas City for his personal reasons. That is, his wife who is unwilling to move to Kansas City and would prefer to move to New York. Harry uses his power of authority to decide and enforce his decision on the team that New York would be the best or more preferred site to locate the new plant. And basically, with this strategy or with this type of decision making, it also basically shows or reveals the setbacks that human or human nature or humans are bound by constraint of using the rational decision making model. Rational decision model. So what I mean by that is he has the constraint of not feeling uncomfortable or avoiding the issue of his wife or personal problems that would prevent him from choosing a better city such as Kansas City. So he's basically or ultimately influenced by his own personal life, and which is one of the things of one of the setbacks of rational decision making when you're the only person making the decision, and everything is all left up to you. Then you can make any decision, not just for the company, based on the company, but also it could be influenced by your personal life. So question 3. What decision techniques that were discussed in the chapter that could be used by the committee to select a new plant site? So the decision technique that we're discussing in this chapter that could be used in the committee to select a new plant site would be participative and creative group decision making techniques. The committee used participative decision-making techniques, especially consultative participative decision-making techniques, because with this technique, the manager asks and receives involvement from the employees or from the entire team, but ultimately the manager is left with the final decision. Like I said in my previous slide, which allows for constraints such as personal issues and personal preferences. We can actually see that within this case, Harry was personally selected to be the manager of this new plant site and sat down with his committee and was given the final decision-making privileges of where the plant would be. With group decision making, it would be that could have been avoided, because with group decision making, everybody comes to a consensus together. So rather than Harry being the person to have the final say, it would have been the entire team finalizing on where that would be, and more than likely, the company brand company would have benefited most out of that, because they would have been going to Kansas City, and that would have been the decision best for the company. Whereas with Harry, he went ahead and chose New York because his wife was more comfortable with that, and he didn't want any of those troubles at home. One of the things about group decision making, or setbacks I could say about group decision making, is that you could, so there could be there are set disadvantages to group decision making. So for example, you have groupthink and group polarization. So with groupthink, everybody in the committee begins to think alike, and they do not share constructive criticism as they should. People are thinking alike rather than critically is with groupthink. So that's one of the risks that would come with group decision making. Another risk would be group polarization, making riskier decisions, because the responsibility of the decision falls on the entire team rather than one person. So you would feel more likely to, I should say, spend 100 grand rather than 50 grand, because you would be working together with a team. So if that 100 grand does not work out, you would say, okay, well, you don't have to carry that personal guilt of not doing or not fulfilling that goal, so that's basically what that would be about. Some of the ways to combat these disadvantages with dealing with group decision making would be, one, brainstorming. And brainstorming would be the process of getting creative solutions from other people without criticism. And that helps boost personal fulfillment with the team. Everybody feels like they're a part of making the decision. They feel personally responsible for what's happening. They feel like they're adding value, which makes them feel better about themselves and the company. Nominal group technique is also another one where it's a group of it's really like a small discussion group, but everybody comes to a consensus. And that is another way that would help, because everybody would be bouncing off discussions or asking each other questions that would lead to making a final decision. So all in all, during this case, we understood that Harry did not make a rational decision. He did not follow the guidelines for rational decision making. He was not logical. He allowed his personal preferences to get involved with the decision or meeting the objectives of the company. Other thing that he did was, even though that he was using rational decision, even though rational decision making was applied in this case with Harry, he did not he did not make a rational decision, which is kind of difficult. So basically, yes, he was the person with the final say to make a rational decision about where the plant should be located, but he did not choose the best suitable place based on the feedback from his team of experts to bring about the best result. He did not choose Kansas City. He went along with New York City because his wife preferred that location. And then finally, we spoke about the decision technique that we thought that could have been best, which would be group decision making, which would have been group decision making technique, which would also remove any biases, any personal interference or constraints that would lie with rational decision making. I also touched on the fact that group decision making does have its setbacks, such as groupthink and group polarization, but could be combated with brainstorming. And nominal group technique. So next slide. To be truly accountable, leadership is the only way to build an organization. Basically, that just concludes everything, that if you're a leader and you want to be truly accountable, the only way in building the organization is to be truly accountable, meaning that you would have to make the decisions that are right. You would have to not allow your personal preferences to get the best of you, like Harry did, and went ahead and chose New York City over Kansas City, which would be much more beneficial for the company than the decision of his wife. So that's all I have. Thank you for listening to me, and have a great Christmas.